Hello, everyone. My name is Anthony Young, and I'm doing Anthony Young's Religious Investigation. And this week, I wanted to talk about the Roman Catholic Church. Every week, I'll be discussing a different topic. And this week, I've chosen the Roman Catholic Church because when I was trying to decide which faith I wanted to follow, I wanted to look at all of them. And the information I discovered was very surprising. And so I wanted to make these videos just in case anyone is starting their walk and starting to get that spiritual awakening and wanted to look and test things for themselves. So I wanted to come and give y'all the information that I came across. I came up with 10 different points that I wanted to bring up. I just seem to stick with the number 10 because it seems like a good round even number. Um, and the reason why I chose not to follow the Catholic Church. And I think this will shed some insight on my thought process. And if you're looking for a faith to follow, maybe this will give you some information that you didn't know. The first topic I wanted to bring up was that the faith itself tends to worship Mary over Jesus. Hail Mary, full of grace. They seem to direct most of the attention to Mary instead of Jesus, when Jesus was the perfect sacrifice and the name by which all men must be saved by. It just seems like a misdirection. If the religion is about Jesus, why do they keep focus on Mary when Jesus should be the beginning and the end of the faith itself? They seem to go off in the wrong direction by focusing on Mary. I do think that Mary is, very important because she gave birth to Jesus, but Mary does not overshadow Jesus by a long shot. She does not. Jesus is the perfect one. He gave the perfect sacrifice. He was blameless in his ways. So it's by him that we are saved. It's through his forgiveness that we are saved. It has nothing to do with Mary. So why they would make the focus of everything about Mary is beyond me. It seems like a misdirection. I do believe that it's intentional, but maybe they say it's not. But it just seems to me that the direction of the whole faith is already started off wrong. Number two, the buildings, the churches of themselves, the cathedrals, are really over the top. They're really elaborate. I mean, from the gargoyles and the statues and just these $1,000,000 buildings, all are an exercise in vanity. They're pleasing to the eye, which causes me to question them because the eyes will deceive a man. What looks good to you isn't always good for you. All that glitters isn't gold. All of those things weighed heavily on my mind because one thing, if you take a saying from one area, somehow you can find connections for that same saying and wise verse with other things. And if a church is supposed to be a place of solitude, of safety, where they can commune with God and feel a closeness to God, to praise him, and all of this elaborate production and everything doesn't seem to be needed as long as the intentions of the church are pure. And to me, it just seems like a huge distraction. I don't understand the need for all that excess. It really doesn't. And that's where, I guess that's the thing of organized religion. It tends to put on airs for man, for the eyes of man, to please the eyes of man instead of pleasing instead of pleasing God himself, And I think that, that takes a step in the wrong direction. The third topic I wanted to talk about was the desecrating of the temple, the pulpits, and the altars in these churches. I was really blown away to discover that that some of the bones of the bishops and the people that they have deemed saints are located in these churches, the bones of these people. And in the Bible, it speaks of a holy place remaining holy and do not pollute it with the bones of a decomposed man inside the church. Those two don't go together. Bones belong in a graveyard. Let the dead bury the dead. Those should stay there. There's no reason for those bones to be in the church. And then on top of that, it just doesn't seem to make any sense to me that they can deem a person to be a saint. Only God can say a person is a saint because to all accounts, a person can look holy, good, pure, and an honest to good person, but who knows the state of that person's heart? And the only person or the only being that can judge a heart is God. So for them to take that assumption to say this person was a saint, they may have been a good person, but only God can deem a person a saint. That power is not given to any man walking this earth. It is not. So for them to say that seems to be a little presumptuous, that they can step in and take something that is for God to decide and put it up on themselves. Give unto Caesar the things which are Caesar's, and give unto God the things that are God. And I think it's very presumptuous of them to try to step in and do what God is supposed to do. So I was not pleased when I found out about that. Number 4, I wanted to discuss was something that actually blew my mind when I actually heard and read about this and actually did some research on it. Now, in Arizona, they have a very, very large telescope that they use to observe the constellations and the stars in the heavens. And of all the names in the world they could choose for this device to look at the stars, they chose the name Lucifer. It is called the Lucifer. This huge telescope that they're using to gaze into the heavens is called the Lucifer. Then come to find out that the Pope now are having open discussions with other people of the church to talk about extraterrestrials. Who knows if it's something that they've seen up in that telescope that's causing them to have these discussions. But of all the names in the world, Lucifer would not be on the top of a list of an organization and church that's supposed to be about Jesus. Why choose that name? It seems like they're saying one thing for the public, although their intentions are something else. It's like a classic misdirection like in any magic trick. Keep the eye focused here while you do this. So why would they name a telescope the Lucifer is beyond me. I don't knock anybody for having this faith. If this is your faith, more power to you. These are just the reasons why I do not necessarily approve or would pick this faith and religion for my own. This is why. These are just observations that I made. This is not a slam on anyone who is Catholic, to each their own. We're all trying to find our way to God. The 5th item I wanted to bring up, which did not help me decide not to follow the Roman Catholic faith, it was just interesting information. And when I found out about it, I just decided I would tell you now. Just so while you're out there looking up the Catholic Church, if you are, this will be something to look into as well. It's just very interesting, food for thought. St. Malachi's prophecy. St. Malachi was a pope that lived over 100 years ago. And he said that he was given in a vision the 112 popes that would succeed him, the 112th being the last one, and that this last pope would lead his sheep throughout the Great Tribulation. Then the church itself would be destroyed. Now, Pope Francis, that was just brought in as a pope, is the 112th pope. This prophecy tells of the origin of the pope and how long they would be in office. And a lot of the predictions have been spot on. And if I'm getting this correctly, they said that all of the predictions have been spot on. Now, honestly, no man knows the day and the hour. No man can know the workings of God unless God reveals it to them. And I cannot say that this is an honest prophecy. I'm just saying it's food for thought. But I find it odd, and I just find this interesting. You can also look this up if you happen to be searching online. When they elected Pope Francis into the role of the Pope at the Vatican, at the exact moment when they decided that he would be Pope, this is just so strange. In the Bible, it speaks of Satan. I beheld Satan fall like lightning from heaven. At the exact moment when they picked this Pope Francis to be Pope, the Vatican was struck by lightning. Who knows if at that moment the spirit of the false prophet fell into the Vatican? Who knows? I mean, I just find it very interesting. Anybody can draw conclusions anyway, but honestly, like I said before, only God knows the past from the future and everything that's going to happen. And, only God knows. But I just find that very, very interesting. And if you have time, you should look it up. But I find it very, very funny that, it was hit by lightning and that it says in this prophecy that, this pope will lead his church his sheep through the Great Tribulation, and the city on 7 hills will be destroyed. And I do know from reading Revelations that the false prophet will come out of the Vatican Church. It's been dissected by many other people besides myself that the false prophet will give his power to the beast. And if this prophecy is true, the only reason the church could have been struck by lightning, to me, it would make sense. given the context of that scripture from the Bible. Just something to look up. The next thing, which is number 7, I would like to talk about is the Pope position itself. Now, the Pope is supposed to be Jesus Christ on earth. And when I read that, this blew my mind. How can any man with original sin take the place of Jesus on earth? It's impossible. It's actually it's preposterous. It's almost insulting that they would say that this man can take the place of Jesus on earth. And another thing I do not understand about the Catholic faith is they go to church, to a confessional, and confess their sins to a man in a booth, and he in turn forgives them, when they can talk directly to God and ask for forgiveness for those same sins. No man can take the place of God. How can you ask for forgiveness from another mortal man made of clay as we are? That makes no sense to me. And usually if something doesn't make sense, it's not true. And I find this to just, it starts to stack the cards in favor against the Catholic Church in my eyes, because that's very, very presumptuous. He's supposed to be Jesus Christ on earth. I'm sorry, there's only one Jesus. He may not be on earth right now, but he is just as much alive as he was then. So honestly, if I want to be forgiven, I'm going to talk to Jesus himself, not to any man walking around here with flesh and blood. I'm just not going to do it. Now, whoever is of this faith and chooses to do that, that is your right to do that. But me, it just doesn't work for me. The next thing I wanted to bring up was the history of the Catholic Church. Now, in the beginning, it was the Roman Catholic Church and the Jewish Pharisees that joined together to have Jesus crucified. After Jesus was crucified, the Roman Catholic Church spent all of its time killing and torturing Christians. Then from the Christians, it went on to every other denominational church, so much so that the people of the past left their country to get away from Rome and to get from under their thumb. Then you turn around and in the same breath you say that you are the representative of Jesus on earth, yet the faith itself speaks more of Mary than Jesus. That makes no sense to me. How can you be God's representative on earth when you destroyed the Son of God on earth? It seems like there's two contrary motives here, and one is using to cover up the other. And any person who has enough knowledge and can pray about it can look at these things and see that something doesn't add up. So how you can go from persecuting this faith to supposedly being the representative of all faith and Jesus himself on earth. And I don't know how they twisted up what Jesus said, that you will be the rock that my faith is built on, with Peter, which is why they're supposedly the Pope has all the power of Jesus on earth and can forgive sins. No. See, that's man. Man needs a hierarchy. I guess it's because we were supposed to serve God, and in the Garden of Eden with original sin, we chose to go our own way. Man has since that time been putting one person above another to create order. So this just seems like another one of man's things where they have to have somebody to answer to. But it does not make sense to me. This just seems like something that the world does. And I'm sorry, it doesn't work for me. If I want to speak to God and confess to God, I go straight to God. I don't go to a man in a booth and him in turn talk to God when I have a mouth like he can, like he does, and I can talk to God myself. Number 9, I wanted to talk about Revelation, and how Revelation speaks of the great harlot who has a cup of abominations and the blood of the martyrs. And we all know that the Roman Catholic Church martyred more Christians than any other faith on the planet. Yeah. And it speaks of this great church, which is on 7 hills, and how she has the spoils of her riches, and how she's drunk with the abominations of this, and how Malachi's prophecy talks about this church that will be destroyed, but Revelation says the exact same thing. So the prophecy is saying nothing new that one cannot gather from Revelations itself. So with just a little bit of like looking into things and putting the lines together, it's really not hard. People say that Revelations is very encryptic, but it's really not if you break it down to its natural form and follow the train of thought that it goes through. And a lot of people say it's symbolism. No, All the other books in the Bible are very literal. This will be the exact same way. And number 10, my final topic that I wanted to discuss as far as the Catholic Church is the Pope taking the place of Jesus, as I spoke about a little while ago. Does anyone outside of myself see something very, very wrong with that? And then you name one of the most powerful telescopes on the planet after Lucifer, yet you claim to be Jesus. And that's one of Satan's lies. If you will fall down and worship me, I will give you all the kingdoms of the world. The only one worthy of being worshipped is Jesus. So why you would name something after Satan leads me to believe that there's more of a connection here than people are willing to put together. Now, I'm not demonizing the Catholic Church, but I am saying that these things do not make sense. And if it doesn't make sense, there's something wrong here. And as a whole, I do not knock anyone from that faith, but honestly, when I was looking at religions, this did not have the ring of truth to it. It really did not have the ring of truth to it. So I wanted to discuss the Roman Catholic Church as my topic for this week. Now, I'll be having more discussions, more things coming very, very soon. I will be talking about the occult and Satanism of the music industry, and I will break down each industry separately. Blues, pop, rock, soul, heavy metal, and all, to draw an overall picture of this and the industry itself, because there are a lot more things going on the planet than people are aware of. And a lot of it goes on subliminally and very, very low as not to draw attention. And anything honest will come out in full daylight. Anything done in the dark is done for a reason. So a lot of these things, I encourage anyone to go look these things up for yourself. Don't take my word for it, because if you think I'm making it up, I would rather you check it out. I encourage you to comment and message me. You can contact me at anthonylyoung@hotmail.com. And ask me any questions or any topics that you'd like for me to bring up or discuss or to research for you. But I would love to hear what you have to say as well. I also want to end these broadcasts by letting people know about my literary projects I have out. I have a Christian-based book called From Death to Immortality. It's great for young adults, teenagers, and adults. It's a Christian fiction story that has strong Christian moral values that I think is a very, very good read. I also have a book called The Epic of Eternity. Both books are on Amazon.com. You can download it in an ebook format, or you can order it and have a paperback sent to you in the mail. Again, you can correspond with me at anthonylyoung@hotmail.com. I will put the email address down at the bottom or on the very top. I also would like to thank everyone for taking the time to sit with me and chat with me. And I really hope that you would respond, because I'd really love to hear from you. And until next time, I will talk to you again. Thank you.